Good Wednesday morning and happy day before Turkey Day, everyone. It's Will. It's Dimitri. How you doing, Dima?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Excellent. The disclaimer's up there if you want to jump on that.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I in Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not broker dealers. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to help answer your questions and provide you with guidance. There's the disclaimer.
All right.
And
I will put the link to the Zoom in the YouTube chat. So anyone who wants to come over with any questions can click on that and come over and we will get them on live.
Awesome. So I think I'll share my screen. Today, what we'll do is, it might be just a short day. We'll see how the questions come in, but we'll take questions. You guys have any questions about Market Chameleon tools? Something you've seen out there in the trading and experience, maybe it's something you didn't expect, you want to share, we can talk about that. So some about data, options. Your chance right now to put in those questions in the chat, or if you want to ask your question live, we'll put in a link there that takes you over to Zoom. When you come over to Zoom, you can raise your hand, ask your question directly. You don't need to turn on your video camera. So with that, while we're waiting, what I'll do is go over the pre-market report. These are stocks trading in pre-market hours. We have some questions, from while we're waiting for questions to queue up. I just take some questions that I kind of get over the email or chat, and some of them deal with, well, can you talk about some of your upcoming features? We could talk about that. And some other questions that I make notes of. So I'll start with those while we're waiting for any questions to come over. Sound good, Will?
Perfect. And remember, this is the last pre-market show of the holiday weekend. Tomorrow
for this week,
Thanksgiving, yep. And then Friday is a half day trading. We will not be having a show on Friday. So our next show after today is Monday. So make sure you get your questions in. If you have anything looking at Friday or anything, get it in today.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Will. So this is the pre-market report. Stocks trading in the pre-market hours. We have the most active stocks, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. Coming down here, I see 46 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 63 on the percentage decliners list. So from that perspective, slightly bearish bias at the opening. Let's take a look at the S&P 500 stocks if we see a similar situation. And let me take a look here. So here we got 4 that made our percentage gainers list, 11 on the percentage decliners list. Not a huge list, but nevertheless, a more bearish bias at the open. And yesterday was kind of choppy. I don't know if you were watching the markets yesterday, but very back and forth, because, I would just glance over. I'm just going to show you guys really quickly. Let me just see the chart here. I don't know if you could tell, but you could see up, then down, try to rally back up and down. So very choppy yesterday, because as I was glancing over, I was like, whoa, there's big swings back and forth and the P&L. So a lot of stuff moving around yesterday. So we'll see, maybe there's some kind of rotation now going on. But just felt more choppy than we normally see. One thing, before I get to, I made some notes. I don't know if you're getting any questions, but I made some notes.
We did get a question. Trevor was asking, where can I find definitions to some of the terms used in the table?
What table are you looking at?
I'm assuming he was looking at the pre-market because that was the first thing you're looking at, but yeah, I'm not sure. Trevor, let us know what table you're looking at. I mean, there is a whole section of terms on Market Chameleon. And anywhere you typically, if you see an I, you can get information as well, correct?
Yeah, like some of these are, we don't give, we just assume what volume is, market cap. So I don't do hover overs. Sometimes I put hover overs, but just let me know what table you're looking at, and I'll take a look at it. But some of the things we just assume Okay, if you're trading stocks or options, you'll know some of the basics. And other things we try to put on hover-overs definitions. So while we're waiting, if there are no other questions or we're waiting on that, I do get
he did come back with that, Trevor. He says the block trade table.
Options block trades, stock block trades.
So Trevor, option or stock?
So
let's go with stock.
Stock. Okay. Like over here.
Yeah.
If you hover over these eyes, that's kind of like where they tell you, some of them we just kind of assume that, like what notional is, 30-day average, relative. But if you hover over like this, it'll kind of give you, if you're looking for one specific, email me. I'll take a look, if we could add a hover over, but this is kind of like the eye gives you the definition.
There you go, Trevor. Hope that helps.
All right. So one thing that, I'm going to come back to, I think it's very important. I kind of mention it again. Sometimes I just try to give analogies for people to understand it because, I still get a lot of repeat questions, and it's from new customers. We have new customers all the time and a lot of repeat questions. And some of the things they say, kind of sticks out. And to me, it's very strange, but I could maybe start to understand how somebody who's coming into trading, investing, or risk taking, when you're coming into this, it doesn't take much to open an account, put money in there and start trading, right? It doesn't make you a professional trader. It's just easy to do. And the problem is that a lot of people, I would say almost everybody, unless you went to college for finance, probably didn't really get an education in investment and risk taking and risk management and what these securities mean. So there's a big lack of, education when people come in to trade stocks. And if you think about it, it's probably harder, I don't know, to get a license to drive a car, than open up an account and start trading your money, because you can only hurt yourself, right? So nobody really cares. Nobody makes you take exams. Nobody tells you like, this is so when people come in, because of that, they have these preconceived notions how things work. They think it's kind of like simple, and and I get, people were like, I'm a swing trader. I need real-time quotes. I'm going to look at the prices and I'm going to figure out where things go. So it's like, they're going to, it's their gut's going to tell them, their instinct, whatever you want to say, their impulse. This is a big problem. I think this is a big problem, maybe even in our education system. I don't know why, we might even need to change how things are, because I think it's very important as you go through life and you're going to start making investments. Maybe you should start having some kind of basic knowledge about it. But I'll give you an example here of what I usually see. And here, I outline these things, that you need, if you're going to be a successful trader, you need these things: education, research, execution, and risk management. Like all of them work together. And if you can't take one of them out of there and think that you're going to do well. But why do people think that, right? Like this is what, I went to college, I studied finance, economics, and I interned, I worked on Wall Street, I worked, for big firms, so to me, it kind of, this all came to me because I went through it, but most people didn't go through that. And when they look at a trader, right, they don't think of it as like a profession or a professional. They think of it as like this easy thing. And this is what they jump to, the execution, right? And they think the most important thing is the execution. I just need these real-time quotes, real-time data. and I don't care about any of this. Research, education, risk management, it's not important. It's all in the execution. And let me just compare it to this, and I'm going to tell you and why I think this is happening. Okay, I want to tell you why I think this is happening, so you kind of don't fall into this trap, right? Like think about a lawyer, doctor, or even an athlete, a professional one, right? A lawyer, you have to go get an education, you have to learn, you have to study the law, you have to know the rules. Then, if you're going to represent somebody before you go into court, you got to do your research, look at the evidence, make a presentation, know how to argue, then execution. And this is where we are. You go into the courtroom, you have to make it, you already have to have all these before you get into the execution phase. All this had to already occur. You're standing in front of a judge, you got to make an argument, know what you're talking about, kind of anticipate things, know your answers. And then, of course, risk management, right? That goes without saying, because you got the other side arguing the other way, and then you got to react to it. So you're reacting to things real time, right? That's what a professional lawyer. Doctor, same thing. Got to have an education. You got to do your research. You're not going to go operate on a person without doing tests, without verifying what needs to be, you got to identify the symptoms of what you think it is, and then you kind of go into the operating room. That's your execution, and then you do risk management. What you monitor a person, like how does he do afterwards, or how's he reacting to medicine and so forth, right? So all this, and like think about it in an athlete. You still have to learn the game, learn the rules. You gotta you got to do training. Before you get into, let's say, a football game. There is an entire team of people researching your opponents, how they play, what are their strengths, what are we gonna plays are we gonna run, what's the best way to beat this team. And it doesn't matter if you're a football team or a boxer, you're gonna go and do your research on your opponent to have a game plan, right? Then you got the execution, you step into the ring, play the game, and then risk management, of course, is same thing. As you're playing the game, you're reacting to real-time information, right? What is the other team doing? What works, what doesn't work, and so forth. What play should I run? And you see this, how I put all this together? New traders, they say, I don't need this, I don't need this, and I don't need this. I just need to put on, I'm going to turn on my terminal, look at the trades, and I'm going to just do an execution. I'm going to chase, start buying stuff, start selling stuff. So all this, I'm going to skip, right? It's not important. And why does that happen? Like, why does nobody would do it. Nobody would do this as a lawyer, doctor, or even athlete. Nobody would say, I don't need this, right? But why does it happen for traders? Why do they think that's not important? And I think the problem is that trading, what's the difference between this profession and all of these, right? In this, you could get lucky, right? You could actually make money, not because, you have an education or research or risk management. You could get lucky, right? It's hard to go inside a courtroom and get lucky if you don't know any of this. How do you execute? How do you execute being a doctor without all this? Even an athlete, how do you execute? But with a trader here, you could actually get lucky. You could just skip to the execution and you could do it. And because it's the only profession really, just by sheer luck, it could happen. And this is why I think people go to that. And in my opinion, at that point, you're kind of just gambling. You're not really a trader, just because you skipped all the other parts. But it's an important piece. And I think that when I hear comments or even questions, even like the way the questions are framed, I'm like, oh my God, this is what's going on. And sometimes you have to learn. And by the way, when I talk about this, there's a lot in there, right? Education, research comes with experience too. So this is ongoing. A lot of this is ongoing, risk management, all this. But I think that this is a problem that I constantly see, and I don't know if I could even help people like that, because it's the mentality that, I could skip to this. Why should I waste time on that? And I think all this needs to work together. And if you're not using all this over a longer period of time, you shouldn't be surprised when, or you shouldn't be blaming people or upset that it's not working, right? Because all of this has to work together, right? You can't skip, you can't like say, well, this is for this here, this is for everybody who just feels like they're doing it, but I don't feel like I'm doing it. I can just go to this. It's the same thing. Does that make sense to people? Like, hopefully I'm trying to just put it visually in front of people just to kind of understand. And it's not everybody, but we have a lot of long-term customers who are very good at this. It's mostly people trying to do this almost for the first time, or like maybe a couple months into it. And that's why kind of just wanted to show that hopefully it makes sense that you can't just skip to this.
Yeah, and the great thing is that first piece research there, I mean, education, there's so much you can do. We have successful chameleons on the chat right now, who have all sorts of backgrounds and different, college degrees, non-college degrees, but have been educated in the workforce, so the education can take place by studying about the markets, learning about the markets, reading about the markets. You don't necessarily need an MBA in finance to start your education. You just have to be dedicated to education and the process. There's so many videos out there.
And by the way, the people joining us today are kind of trying to do this right now, right? So I commend, I understand, because you're spending your time doing it, and hopefully you're getting something out of it. But I wanted to mention this because when we talk about execution, like, people are like, I just need real-time quotes and I just need to go and trade. What you're doing is you're spending the majority of your time on something that you're supposed to be spending the least amount of your time. Like, think about like lawyer, doctor, athlete, all these people. The execution for lawyers when he steps into the courtroom, right? The doctor into the operating room, the athlete when he steps into the ring, play the game. The majority of the time you're not seeing this is what they're spending it on, right? This is what they're spending the majority of the time. The execution is going to be the least amount of time because you need to be already prepared for everything. So if you're spending your time looking in front of a terminal just to do executions and avoid all the rest of the time, you're just doing it wrong. And
now is this coming from someone asking about why don't you have real-time data? Is that one of the reasons?
And I don't mind, the real-time data, it's fine. Like, I have real-time data on my execution system, but the important thing to understand is that that it's not just turning on the real-time data, or you need some kind of, and our system, it's a research platform. It's next to your real-time data. I have real-time data. I have a lot of different tools, that we pay for. I don't know, I'd have to look, but I'm sure I'm paying a couple hundred, maybe a couple $1,000 for real-time data. I don't know what it is, but I pay for it. It's on my execution system, but that's not where I spend the majority of my time. That's majority is doing the research. And then you go do the execution once you feel comfortable. So I think it's important, and it's the mindset, right? Like, going into it, because what happens is that if your mindset isn't correct and you're getting results that you're expecting these results, but the results are not realistic that you're expecting, you get disappointed, you get discouraged, and then you're out, and then you start thinking like, it's either rigged or somebody cheated you or whatever. But really, it's like, if you're skipping these parts, then you're really just not using all the necessary, elements and factors you need to have a longer term success. trading, right? Once you jump to this, if that's all you're doing, you could get lucky. I'm not saying you're not going to, because that's how it is. It's a risk, right? It's risk. So you could get lucky, but it's more gambling. So hopefully that helps, just to set the right expectations going in. And I think that will put you in the right path to success, right? Knowing that you have to kind of what you need going forward.
Yeah, and for those who want about the education and research, I mean, Felix Frey did a webinar just the other night, and I'll put the link in, which was so interesting on how he does his research. And
Right.
it was an hour, right? And he had prepared for that based on research. And he talked about doing 5 hours of research a night, and every night doesn't come up with a tradable idea, but it's that research is constant.
Right.
So it's a great video to watch, and it's one thing to look at in the trading spectrum, and could lead to some interesting ideas. But it was worth watching, everyone.
Right. Yep, definitely. That's a good example of somebody doing research prior to executing a trade. So put that link and take a look at it. But that is, I think, a pretty good example of the steps that he took before he felt confident to say this looks like a good risk reward opportunity. All right, so no questions on that, Will. So we do work on different features, and I'm always looking, well, how can I improve things, right? So not just sometimes even for myself, but most of the time I have the customer in mind, because I'm reading feedback and I'm trying to figure out how do we improve it, make it easier. And a lot of the time it's just working towards simplifying things, making it like easier, centralizing things, because data's all over the place, so pointing things out. And we're doing that. Well, we try to do that all over the place. One of the features we talked about before, it was going to be the alert system. So in the alert system, what it's doing, it's scanning our screeners, scanning the markets, the trades, the applied volatility, so forth, running through analytics to kind of point out things to look at, right? Like take a look at this, something is here, very low price, something's very high price, and it's kind of an alert system for trade ideas. So here, the trade ideas would pop up as they're going, and I'm still testing it. So guys, this is something going forward that will not be ready maybe till January, but I kind of wanted to give you guys a preview, maybe take some feedback right now. I might have some of our longer term customers, they've emailed me, volunteer to kind of be tested out before we release it. So we might do that as well. But the idea behind it is, it'll come up with ideas. You click on it, you could read about like why this was filtered out, and then in the bottom, it'll take you to another relevant page that you can do deeper analysis. So like over here, it said, well, here's this stock RIDE. One of the things we did put on there is like just indicators of technical trends. So this RIDE is in a downtrend. If it's an uptrend, we put kind of like this kind of indicator. If it's a 52-week high, today we put this indicator. So we're still working on these things, but here it's telling us that the January 21st straddle is priced below its historical average. So let's take a look there. We could come down here. It pops us to this straddle, and it should. I think when you press a button, it's not working yet. It'll bring up the straddle like this, right? And then you could load that strategy, so you could see like, this is the straddle price. This is what it looks like, buying the call, buying the put. And why did it bring it out? Well, let's see how historically, if we well, there's only 2 observations here. So, and take a look at that. You know, maybe that shouldn't have, but if we just took those 2 observations, you could see that on average, that price was $2.31. So I think that's because, let me just take a look here. 40 days. So I'll take a look why that's, maybe it's not been around that long. So I'll take a look. The other thing it's looking at, well, where is this straddle usually priced? So this one distribution, it's saying, how did the stock tend to move in the 40-day period? Based on that, where would the straddle be priced? So it's using that. And then it's saying, well, where do the options usually price? You know, where do the implied vols usually price a straddle? And on average, $1.75. Right now it's $1.69. So you could see here on the lower end of the range. So this kind of gives you an idea if you're looking for straddles ideas, or you're looking, if that's kind of the strategy you like, you know, it'll pop it out, and then you could kind of do further research on that. And what it will do as well, and what we're working on, is it's going to try to learn based on, like, you know, your clicks and the symbols that you enter. It'll try to learn what you're most interested in, so it'll weight those types of opportunities heavier, right? So this way, your opportunity list will look a little bit different, just because you might be interested in certain stocks, you might be interested in certain strategies, you know, or, you know, certain types of alerts, and that's what it's going to start trying to do, just so it's more relevant to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Here, they'll also point out, you know, some people just want to see stocks, like, for example, this stock's in a downtrend, 8th straight day, you know, so here's, like, you know, so it's going to point those out. You know, here's one in an uptrend, 15 straight days, Eli Lilly. So you can see here it's above all their moving averages. So different opportunities, different statistical analysis, and it's going to kind of start alerting you that way. So that's one of the new features we're working on, you know, be ongoing. We're probably going to have some of our existing customers, you know, we're going to give it to them first to test out. You know, we had a, you know, at least a dozen already email me to volunteer for it.
So I'm sure you'll get some more emails after this explanation and show.
Yeah.
Awesome job, Dima.
All right. So everyone, have a good Thanksgiving. You know, have a good trading day. Stay safe out there. Hope to see you guys. So Thursday and Friday, we're not going to be here. Monday, we're going to start up the show Monday morning.
All right. Great job, D. Thanks so much. You have a great Turkey Day, my friend. We will see you Monday morning, everyone. Enjoy your holiday, chameleons. Bye-bye. Have a safe trip.